He's a #1 Amazon bestseller. He's an NLP manipulator. He's a property course seller. He's a Lamborghini driving multi-millionaire property guru. Forget that same old boring I am me narcissistic podcast format, because nobody gives a fuck. This podcast is all about you. So I'm taking these few seconds to thank you for subscribing, to thank you for leaving your 5-star reviews, and thank you for sharing this show with all of your friends. My team and I will keep bringing you these episodes and answering all of your burning questions in my Facebook community group called Property Crash Course. If you can just keep telling all of your friends about this show. Okay, brilliant. So I'm here on the podcast with Simon Taylor, and we're just going to go deep and just share as much as we can with you guys about where the market is, what we think the market's doing, and where there might be some opportunities in the market right now, and obviously Simon's advice from being in the business with all the answers to the questions that you guys are looking for. So I hope we deliver as much value as possible here for you guys. And if you've still got questions, if you're listening to this live, obviously just post them in the chat, and we'll put these straight onto the episode as well. But yeah, sure. If you just introduce yourself, Simon, and tell the audience a little bit of background about yourself.
Okay, well, listen, thanks for, first and foremost, thanks for having me on. Enjoying your podcast. I think it's a really valuable service, and honoured, flattered to be invited onto the show. So yeah, thanks for having me. Your listeners won't know who I am. Simon Taylor. I live in London. I'm an estate agent of just over 20 years. Starting off in 1999. In the days before there was even computers on one's desk, and I've lived in London for circa 17 years now, and I've been an agent more or less ever since. In the last 5 years, I've been working with an agent which I'm sure everybody listening is familiar with if they're in the UK. And 5 years ago, I took a franchise for the agency Purple Bricks for East London, and grew it from a one-man band when nobody had even heard of Purple Bricks to the beast that it is today. And through blood, sweat, tears, and working 7 days a week, the East London team of Purple Bricks was built up to a team of 12, was consecutively, I should say, every quarter the busiest agent on Rightmove and Zoopla for new instructions and sale agreed. But more recently than that, over the last few weeks, you could say phenomenal timing from me that I'm launching my own agency, which is Property by Simon Taylor, which will be launching in the next couple of months. And really, I've done that because I believe that, yes, moving forward, once we get over this coronavirus hiccup, that there will be countless opportunities out there, but people are going to have to be treading that bit more carefully than they've ever done before. There'll be lots of pitfalls and lots of scary things to navigate. And of course, I certainly don't know all the answers to everything. But I do believe opportunities need to are there. Some hand-holding and having an expert guiding you through what's good, what's not, what may work, what might not work, and taking a more medium to long-term view, I think, is going to be crucial moving forward. And of course, there are many agents who I'm sure many of your listeners will agree with. There's lots of agents out there that don't quite know what they're doing and will just tell you what they think you want to hear in terms of buttering you up with an overly ambitious price achievable. And I think it's now coming. We're going to be coming into a market where sellers need to be given honest, frank, candid, shoot from the hip knowledge. And this being my third experience of 3 downturns, I think expertise is going to be more appreciated than ever before. Well, I certainly hope so. That's the plan anyway.
I see. So when you say obviously the agents buttering the vendors up with prices and things like that, is it where does the pricing come from? Would you say it's the market, or would you say it's agents that sort of push the price up, maybe not as authentic as it should be, but different times now, isn't it?
Well, yeah, there is that, and of course, over the last few years, do you know that the property transaction volumes, so the volume of properties being brought to the market, has never quite recovered to the levels that it was in 2006. So there are tens of thousands of fewer properties being transacted every year in comparison to what they were back in the 2000s. I'm sure everybody would agree that there's no shortage of estate agents, particularly in one's high street or online. So the agents are all chasing a smaller piece. Well, sorry, I should say a larger piece of a smaller pie. And let me give you a line that an old mentor of mine used to give me, which was I don't know whether it was good advice. He thought it was good advice at the time, but I'm not so sure. And his advice was that giving sellers the right advice is not the way to win business. So be careful. A lot of agents will be going out there trying to flatter and deceive to try and reel you in and try and entice you to appoint them by giving you a figure that's often 10, 15, 20, 30, 50, £100,000 more than the other agents. And that's why you see so many properties reduced in price on Rightmove, and quite often those reduced properties can have a little bit of a stigma attached to them. And, you know, an agent should really be able to value correctly and appropriately a 3-bed semi, a 2-bed flat. It's not rocket science, but other agents will have one view over their shoulder thinking, well, what are the other agents going to be coming in and telling the seller? And, well, I'm going to have to tell the seller just that little bit more. And that can cause all sorts of problems and complications. And so my advice is really, don't always go with the agent that is giving you the highest possible valuation. You want to be going with the agent that's inspiring the most confidence, giving you the most amount of evidence to justify their figure. Because at the end of the day, all that evidence, whether it be properties that have recently sold on that road or the neighbouring roads, or properties that the agent's recently been involved with, that's the evidence. Those are the hard facts that you can't really argue with. And so it's really a case of just be careful and moving forward into the market that we're going to be moving into, which is going to be bumpy, a little bit more uncertain. I think valuable experience is more important than ever. So choosing your agent that's maybe been around the block and has experience of downturns and is able to reassure and not just come out with the which we're sometimes seeing on social media profiles at the moment from some agents, that everything's fine and everything's normal and everything's wonderful and business as usual. That's not quite the case, and they're not necessarily telling porky pie. So you really want a trusted advisor who's able to navigate. And the honest answer is, some agents should be advising some sellers to maybe take a rest, take the property off the market over the next 6-8 weeks. After all, it can't be sold. Viewings can't take place. And the mortgage lenders aren't lending. The surveyors aren't coming out. So in some instances, if any listeners out there, if they've got a property on the market with an agent, you may want to take it off the market, because it could languish and go stale, gather dust. And maybe you want to take it off the market now and relaunch it when the market's looking that little bit more certain. Would be a piece of advice.
That's really good. That would really help some of the listeners, because exactly like you said, if it goes stale or has no activity in 2 months, 3 months, then it can affect the price.
Yes, absolutely. Especially if you've maybe got a property that was on the market last month, February, for instance. Maybe the agent's photographs looked a bit wintry, and my advice would be that when we are hopefully ready to go again in the market, maybe May time, hopefully, or June time, and the seasonality is different. The photographs from February are looking a little bit out of date and wintry. And the agent should really be conducting or doing fresh photographs to freshen up the listing. So a little bit of a spring clean. So for any sellers that have got properties on the market, with old photographs that are looking wintry, take a time out, take a rest, and relist it with fresh photographs when the market's ready to go.
Brilliant. And what do you think if the prices do start to fall, like everyone is saying, the news is saying, etc., and what happened in the 2008 crash, this could be worse or, better. But if they do start to fall, how do agents find the new price as it's falling without using the land registry from, say, 3 months ago? Because that would be out of date now, wouldn't it? How would they get to the price?
Well, that's a very good point. And the only way that I'll be valuing properties is we've got to use the most recent data. And the most recent data may be from January, February of this year, or it may be from November, December of late last year. So when the market is good to go again, we're going to have to feel our way. Let's use the example of, say, a 3-bed mid-terrace house in the area, one of the areas that I work in, which is, say, Chingford in East London. And let's say a 3-bed semi at £400,000. Okay, and there's lots of evidence for comparable properties that have achieved circa £400,000 over the last 6 months to a year within, say, a mile radius. And what I'll do is I'll have to use that as the yardstick. If that was the yardstick that I was deploying in, say, February, March, or early part of March, I've got to try and achieve that price in the May or June market, whenever it is. If we're not getting the nibbles and the bites and the interest at the 400 level, even though there is the evidence that that was once upon a time achievable, then we have to make deductions, and then we'd probably move down to 375 to 385 and see who comes to the table and see what nibbles or offers we get. And we just have to sort of feel our way, especially in the first probably 6 months to a year, where we will look back in the rearview mirror and use the data from sales that occurred prior to coronavirus. We will hope for the best, but yes, I suspect some pricing readjustments will have to be made.
And yeah, that's a great point. That answers lots of some of the audience's questions. I mean, what do you think is going through the agent's mind on the high street right now? Like, just them, honestly, them having the branch on the high street, what do you think is going through their mind? Like, what they're going to do after this, how they're going to recover, are they going to open their doors again, are they going to go online, are they finished?
Well, first of all, yeah, sorry, there's been a big backlash against the likes of Purple Bricks from the high street agents. They're just online, they haven't got an office, and it amazes me that so many agents from the high street, and there's great agents on the high street, and I'm not here to bash high street agents. I used to be a high street agent, and there are still brilliant brands and agents on our high streets. But the industry has evolved, and you can see that from the LinkedIn posts and social media posts that many of them are doing, saying it's business as usual, and we're on the phone and we're on the email. Just that the stone that they used to throw at Purple Bricks for not having a high street office, I guess if they're saying it's business as usual in the current market, they can't really throw that stone anymore. Listen, the high street agents are and all agents, online or traditional, are questioning, well, when is this malaise going to end? When will we be able to get the high street offices back and open? I think when this does come to an end, this the virus, and we're all able to get back to some sense of normality, I don't think it's going to be a case of flicking the switch. I think it's going to be a case of just people tentatively coming back onto the market and tentatively maybe making inquiries about buying. Who knows? Maybe this coronavirus will rear its head again later in the year or next year when hospitals get their peak again. So I think there's going to be apprehension in the market. I think many agents are making cuts to their staff. Many are furloughing their staff. Many are. I read that I know that of some are trying to renegotiate their contracts with all their suppliers. Kindly, I know Rightmove and Zoopla are making adjustments to their monthly subscriptions. But listen, whether you're a restaurateur, an estate agent, a supplier to the airlines or car manufacturing, there's anxieties and uncertainties wherever one turns, and that is why I'm thinking that having an agent that is experienced, can provide reassurance, and is providing no nonsense advice is going to be crucial and key. And that's really, any advisor to any industry, I think they're going to come into their own over the next couple of years. I think over the last probably 5 years, really, any agent could have sold a property, but but there's a difference between any agent selling a property and a great agent achieving 8, 10, 12 grand more. And I think coming into this market, an experienced agent's going to have their handle on values, may be able to maybe reassure buyers, create a level of calm, and extract and tease the highest possible price. So, because after all, not all agents are created equally. As many of your listeners know, there's some great agents out there. There's some mediocre agents out there, and there's some pretty appalling agents out there. But you could say that about everything, I guess. But in terms of how agents are feeling, there's anxiety, but there are many agents that are viewing this, including myself, as an opportunity. And it will be an opportunity. There's going to be many sellers that have been on the market languishing for months and months and months. They're probably fed up with their agent. They're probably despondent with their agent. They probably feel that their agent's maybe lied to them. They probably feel that their agent hasn't really kept in touch much over the coronavirus headache. For instance, I'm speaking to my clients. I'm just touching base. I'm just thinking of you. Everything all right? It's not just you. We're all in the boat together. Just hang in there. A good agent should be doing that during this tricky period. And I think there's going to be a lot of low-hanging fruit for good agents to pick up some good stock and pinch it off other agents, while sellers are, should we say, looking for proper expertise. And I think over the next year to 6 months, I think a lot of people are going to be running around like headless chickens or rabbits in the headlights. And that's perhaps not the medicine that they want.
Of starting again as if everything's opening at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this sort of market will sort the men out from the boys. And I think this sort of market will probably see a lot of people are always said to fall into estate agency. It's just one of those careers that they end up falling into. And I think a downturn is always known for clearing out a lot of the agents. So I think there will be a lot of agents that will shut up shops, maybe the weaker players or the ones that haven't got the cash reserves to see this out. Will fall by the wayside, and maybe the high street will reinvigorate a touch again, and we'll maybe see new industries appearing on high streets. Who knows? But I do think there'll definitely be fewer agents over the medium term.
Yeah, so I think it's similar to like when the lettings fees ban came in. You know, we saw lots of agents just disappear because their margins were so tight, and then others were merged or bought out by somebody else on the high street, and they sort of inherited their portfolio. Do you think that might happen with estate agents as well?
Well, there's always estate agency businesses are always being bought and sold. You asked me the question as to what a property's worth at the moment, and it's probably difficult to quantify how much some agencies are worth. At the moment, there is unquestionably going to see you're probably going to see some consolidation. There was in the industry, it failed to materialise. And that was predominantly coronavirus related. Was Countrywide and Spicer Hart were going to be doing not Spicer Hart, LSL estate agency group and Countrywide were going to amalgamate. You're probably going to see an awful lot of that happening. You're going to see a lot of perhaps management portfolios being traded between different agents once the dust settles, because that is always your bread and butter type of work. You'll maybe see agencies that are maybe headed by somebody in their 50s or 60s, and they just sort of give it up or hand back the keys and just call it a day and say the good times are gone. But the next generation is going to come in, and I think the next generation, which I think is going to include me, is not going to want high street premises. We're going to want an online presence. One doesn't need to have a high street office anymore. So I think many industries are going to say, well, this is a little bit of a light bulb eureka moment. And I think the likes of the Purple Bricks model was a little bit experimental and a little bit maverick 5 years ago when it launched. And it does have its massive pluses, but there are some flaws and negatives. And I do think, though, that this will see a sea change of some estate agency brands choosing to get rid of their high street offices and moving to cheaper premises, or maybe having people working from home or local coffee shops and trading under that brand just to keep costs that little bit leaner and meaner. And I think, we're all going to be probably going through leaner and meaner times, and everybody's going to have to be thinking smarter. For Property by Simon Taylor, my business, I'll be having an office in a serviced office building. I won't be there very often because I'll always be out and about. But to have a high street presence, there's just no value in it really anymore. The days of people coming into the office and registering their details or leaving their, will you keep it's not necessary anymore with good contact forms on agents' websites and of course on the portals.
I see that completely makes sense. It really does. So there's going to be a big shake-up on the high street, new opportunities around for other agents, and obviously companies like yourself. And then again, Purple Bricks is probably going to see an influx as well.
Yes, and I think that I think the market's going to be, as I say, just people tentatively, new sellers coming to the market is going to be tentative. And I think when life does get back to more normal, agents will be attacking other agents' stock. Come with us, come with us, come with us. You've had it on with the market with them for some time now. And that will be their low-hanging fruit to try and keep busy and keep cash flow going. And that's when some sellers might be in the mood to change, particularly if the agent's not, should we say, given the seller TLC during this tricky period. And that TLC isn't necessarily from, as I say, from lots of viewings and offers, because that can't really happen at the moment. It's just simply keeping in touch. And I think the agents that aren't keeping in touch with sellers over this tricky coronavirus period will be penalised when life does get back to normal.
I can imagine, because at the same time, if they're in this 6, 8 or 12 week contract, however long we are during this lockdown for, lots of those vendors are going to be out of those contracts. And if they haven't been looked after, like you said, they can just go with the money, the lowest offer. You know, companies like yours, or even try it themselves if money's very, very tight. So there's going to be lots of change.
There's lots of change, but and change is disconcerting in many ways and frightening in many ways. But I suppose we've all got to. Well, there will be a new norm coming our way, and that new norm is going to create opportunities for whatever industry you're in. But yes, I guess it's going to be survival of the fittest, and the leanest and the meanest and the fittest and the most proactive are going to win. And for your investors listening, listen, you know, if their property is going to, I would imagine, dip in value a wee bit, but if they're not selling it, it's irrelevant. They're probably going to hang in there and wait for the market to pick up. And with interest rates at 0.0%, you're not going to stick the money in the bank. I would anticipate that landlords, unfortunately, will probably be penalised by taxation just that little bit more over the next coming years by the Chancellor, Rooney Sunak, on the basis that, you know, we're borrowing billions and billions and billions of pounds to pump into the economy, and that will all need to be paid back. And unfortunately, landlords are often a bit of a golden goose to tax and penalise. But there will be opportunities because unemployment may spike. Sellers might need quick sales. There might be less buyers in the market, and those that are well-heeled, well-funded, have a good line of credit or sitting on cash, and that there will be opportunities out there, unquestionably.
So what do you think then, from your professional opinion of being, you know, in the property business for 2 decades, what do you think about, with obviously what happened in 2008? I think it probably dropped around 25, 28% in some areas. Do you think we could go the same way?
It's a tricky one, and it all depends on how quickly business gets back, the general economy gets back to normal. You know, we've come into this crisis with relatively low, well, very low unemployment at circa 4%, which many regard that as more or less full employment. And if unemployment hits 8%, 10%, 12%, 15%, 20%, you know, how many businesses are going to go to the wall? And it all depends on that. But I would think that by a minimum, we're probably going to see falls of 10%, maybe 20%, maybe 25%. We'll just have to see. And hopefully it doesn't come to that, because I don't want to see millions of people on the unemployment roll. But I think it's all going to be down to how quickly the economy gets back to normal, and how many businesses are able to get back into a transition of more or less what they were doing before. And if people can go about their business and their work and get into their routines again, then, you know, I think things should settle down relatively swiftly. I'm not going to say it's going to be like flicking a switch and we go back to how things were in February, but we just need a sense of normality. And at the moment, it's difficult to gauge. Some economists are predicting a much deeper dive than what we were in 2008, verging from not Great Recession but into depression, which is frightening. but we will just have to see how it goes. At the moment, it would be very foolish, I think, for anybody to say that prices aren't going to fall. I think that's unquestionably that they are going to fall, but and that will put many off from buying. That herd mentality will mean that they'll be frightened or nervous about what headlines they may be reading in the press. And fortune often favours the brave, and that will be create the opportunities. It could be create the little bit of a dip until prices start rising again. And of course, if unemployment does peak over the next 6 months or a year, it will gradually get back to the normal, which is why maybe buying in late 2020 into 2021 could be the time period of opportunities before prices start rising again in 2022, 2023. But we'll see. We don't know.
I know, who knows where the bottom will be.
Hopefully the quarantine and imprisonment and whatever you want to call it comes to an end swiftly.
Hopefully it does, and everyone can get back to work and providing for their families, and this can all be just behind everybody. That would be ideal.
I think divorce lawyers are going to be very busy when life gets back to normal, with husbands and wives spending an awful lot of time together. I know my wife has had a few crosswords with me. Who can blame her? It's everybody just wants to get life back to normal. But thankfully, we've had nice weather, and those fortunate enough to have gardens, it relieves it. But predicting where prices are going to go downwards, unquestionably, and the percentage fall will be dependent on how the unemployment rate sits.
Well, I'm down in Brighton, right by the beach. The sea is literally 50 metres from the front of my house.
Lovely. Well, I can hear you loud and clear from North London.
The weather's great. It's such a shame because normally now the beach would be full, the pier would be full. There'd be hundreds of thousands of people descending from London literally now. And obviously it's challenging times for everybody. I've got some questions from some of our audience. We sent some things out to our list literally just in the last couple of days and said, what do you guys need is the question we normally ask them. And obviously they're investors. Some have got holiday lets, some have got buy-to-lets, some have got HMOs and student properties. Yes. And, we get involved in all of those as well. So we said, what would you need to bring back to the community right now? And obviously most people voted for, we need to talk to an estate agent. Can you get an estate agent that on this podcast so we can find out some of these answers to these questions, which we have gone through some already, but lots of them are sitting on money. They are sitting on cash. They invest with us. They buy things themselves. Some of them prefer to find somebody like my company who finds deals for them, and but they have the funds. So what they're saying is, how do they themselves get in with an agent right now, assuming there is a correction where they can buy on the way down? They buy as it rises, as it plateaus, and as it falls. They keep buying through all the cycles. They're long-term investors. So how would they become an agent's friend now to get access to anyone who's motivated, you could say, in that package?
Fine. Great question, because there are some investors that do it absolutely spot on, but they are very, 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 very few and far between. And then there's everybody else. And it mostly goes like this, where an investor will either go into an agent's office or phone an agent and say, have you got any deals, anything I can add value to, any deals, anybody need to sell quickly, or any doer-uppers, or right? And truthfully, an estate agent gets 20 of those a week. And or an investor could have seen a property online and go to a viewing with an agent and say anything else, and try and make an offer on the property that are going out to view, or maybe it's not quite right. And I think that investors should be viewing dealing with agents like courtship, like dating. And you got to go gently, right? And it can't all be about gimme. It's got to be give and take. And it's the investors. If you give me something, then there's the expectation or that on my shoulders, really, that I've got to give you something back. So you'll find that the investors that get fed the most are the ones that feed the agency with other properties when maybe they're doing them up after a refurb, and they'll give the instruction back to the high street agent. Or if the investor's a landlord with a few properties as well, he's got the rapport with the agency, and he gives them the letting properties. So when anything does come on, the agent's going to look after that customer, right? I used to work for a landlord many years ago, and I tell you what we used to do sometimes on a Friday. And we would go round the offices with massive boxes of Krispy Kremes, donuts. And we would just say, here you go, guys. It's Friday afternoon. Everybody deserves a donut, right? And we did one deal, a £3 million deal, but we had to send out about 60 boxes of donuts. But we did a great deal off the back of sending out donuts. I would also recommend that investors who are, I've got cash and I've got this and I've got that, be professional, right? Have you got a website? Is there a good about us? Is there case studies of stuff that you've done? Agents will want to do a little bit of research on who you are. You know, have you got 2 million in the bank, or where are you getting your £2 million from, or have you got the experience? And another little thing that I think you should be doing, if you're coming across good agents, add them to your LinkedIn, right? And this happened to me the other day. You know, on LinkedIn, it lets you know when it's somebody's birthday. Send them a card and a bottle of wine. What harm does it do? Do you know how many agents will be receiving cards and bottles of wines from their investor list? 0. And the agent that does send a bottle of wine and a card will be remembered. Will be remembered, 100%. Or what about taking an agent out for lunch on a Friday or a Tuesday or a Wednesday? But I tell you what agents shouldn't do, or what investors I don't think should do, which I've never liked. When you try and throw money at me, here's a grand, or here's £2,000, or I'll look after you, you look after me. It's a little bit dirty. It might work for some agents in some locations, but I'm going to say, maybe I don't like this word, classier agents, or agents with a little bit more of a moral compass, or put a professional website, maybe give them a mention on the website. Have you got a blog? I was so impressed dealing with Jimmy from such and such an estate agent, and hiya Jimmy, I've just tagged you on my blog. Just stuff like that I think makes people feel warm and remembered, warm and fuzzy inside, and it will make sure you get remembered.
Really good tips there. The audience are going to get some, that's real fire there, coming from not guessing or not them reading something on the internet of what one other person done. This is you on the inside, how you prefer to deal with investors, clients, customers, what your colleagues think. You've got to basically try and stand out from the crowd, right? And offering somebody a £2,000 bonus or whatever is not standing out from the crowd. You think it is, just by saying we'll pay double the fees. That's not really that doesn't really work. Not for many.
Yeah, I'm not bothered. It's just those little human touches that we all like. A letter to their manager. I was really impressed with Stephanie, the negotiator. Stuff. People just do stuff like that for people. People love that. And little treats brought into the office. When the weather's nice and we're all back to normal, maybe you're involved with, I don't know, a golf charity day and invite a few of them along for a golf charity day. Just stuff like that. I remember, a football, if you know that one of them loves Spurs or Tottenham or Brighton and Hove, give them a couple of tickets. That's all. People, stuff like that. And you know what? You're planting that, and that might not lead to a deal that week or that month. But when something does come across their desk that is interesting, they'll remember you. And the ones that get phoned the first are the ones that are remembered. An agent will not phone their little black book of respected investors in alphabetical order. They're not going to start with Aaron and end in Xenia. right? They're going to phone, the people that they're going to phone first are the ones they click with, they like, they trust, they've got rapport with, who've looked after them, who've been gentlemen, who've treated them with respect, who've been kind, and who are going to give them the business back when they've maybe refurbished it or and ready to rent it or sell it again. So that would be my recipe book of how to speak to an agent or deal with an agent.
That's some real fire that you shared there, that my audience and anybody else listening to this is really going to love. And obviously you said it here first from the inside, so really appreciate that. What if they're new and then maybe they've been a gentleman and built the rapport and they've looked on their LinkedIn and found out their birthday and things like that, but never worked with them? Is there anything else they do to get past, or they've got to literally do the first deal when they're called and then they're on the run?
Oh, well, so for a brand new newbie, well, I'd probably be suggesting that a brand new newbie tries to join up and do a joint venture with somebody more experienced in their area and build with them and name drop with them and say that I'm doing joint ventures with this person and that person. That's probably how I'd be going about it. To go out there flying solo, and if you've got the funds, you can do it. But it's going to be trickier. It is going to be trickier. So I suppose you're going to have to rely on, as I say, lunch, donuts, birthday cards, that type of thing. You might be able to outsmart some, and there will be newbies that if they deploy some of these tricks, they might get first dibs over some of the more experienced investors who perhaps aren't doing these things. And there is possibly going to be there will be opportunities for newbies as well, who will need to be treading carefully and seek advice from experienced people such as yourself. But there will probably be a lot of seasoned investors or who are sitting on their hands, maybe not wanting to get into this market. Maybe they're already got their funds tied up in other things. Maybe they've already bought a couple of sites at 2019's prices, and they're just wanting to sort of, should we say, sit it out, and they're maybe not going to be as active. So if an agent's investor database isn't going to be as active, because some are taking some time out, maybe there will be some space for some newbies. But yeah, I would advise newbies to maybe try and join up doing joint ventures with people local to them, whose name maybe carries a little bit more weight. But I think unquestionably in this day and age, you can't be saying, well, my name's John Smith and my email address is johnsmith@hotmail.com. You've got to have your own company name, your own proper business card, your own website, and I'd be doing a blog of some stuff that you've maybe been recently involved in. Maybe here's a picture of me and such an agent out for lunch, or here we are at a golf course, or I've just bought this flat, and just tell the world about what you're doing, and that'll get noticed.
That's a really good nuggets of fire there that everyone will enjoy and appreciate as well. Let me step in real quick. I share a ton of business and investment tactics on this show, and it's a shame that there's no interaction on a platform like this, which is why I've created a Facebook community group called Property Crash Course, where I get to answer all of your questions. So you just post a deal or post a question, and I'll show you where the money is in your deal or answer your question for you. So help me to help you in your business right now by asking me anything you need help with. Does that sound fair? Just go to Facebook and then search the groups and then type in Property Crash Course. Is there in an agency, is there like a decision maker? Is it always the managing director who may be removed from the branch, or is it a manager or do they start with the one that does the viewing? Who should they really be trying to do all of this with? The owner, the director, the manager, the sales manager?
It's tricky. It probably, well, do you know, it all depends on the agency. In some agents, the managing director won't have any, won't know what's going on with some of the stock. I'd probably say whoever's doing the valuing, and I'd say number one, because they're going to be the first person that any prospective seller comes into contact with. But I'd be pleasant. If I was going into an office, I would be treating whoever, the receptionist at the front, with the same courtesy and respect as the person that you're trying to entice. And that person, as I say, could be the manager, or could be some of the senior negotiators or junior negotiators. You've got to be treating them all So I wouldn't necessarily just stick with one in the office, and just be kind and courteous to them all, and let them get to know you too. But probably, yeah, the office manager, the senior valuers, and there will be some that you'll click with, and others that you won't. And the ones that you don't click with, try and chip away every few weeks or every month. And the ones that you've got rapport with, don't take that rapport for granted that they're always going to be thinking with you. A relationship takes work, and you've got to keep in touch and keep just being a good guy and trying to stand out from the crowd. I think there's a misconception of, a developer or an investor will build a little bit of rapport, and then they'll phone them every couple of weeks and, oh, any deals, anything happening, and then they go, just take a longer term view, that to gain the trust of that agent. And they're not going to maybe have anything for several months. And if they're not going to have anything for several months, I've got to keep that dialogue in some way, shape, or form going and flowing. So diarise to give them a call every 3, 4, 5 weeks, or tell them that, just to, hey, how you doing? I just wanted to let you know, I wanted to pick your brain. I've been offered something on Acacia Road. What are your thoughts? I'm probably going to be buying it. I'm going to split it up into 3. No guarantee that I'm going to be successful. Let them know of other activities that you're up to and doing. Rather than just say any deals.
That's great, especially for a newbie as well. We're looking at this project. We're doing a partnership with them over there. We're trying to get this valued. We're about to buy and convert this. That's probably a good way for a newbie to then get at the front of their mind. Yeah.
It gives them a little bit of street cred, and it gives them something to talk about with the agent.
It really does. No, that's great. That really is. I mean, for a long time, what we've been teaching our community, and what we used to use as well, was we would look for motivated sellers in certain climates as it's rising, as it's falling. And especially around 2008, in the aftermath of 2008, we would look for properties that have been on for a while. And this is what we'd teach our students as well, and people we're joint venturing with. And then properties that have gone from one agent to another. And then properties that are on to rent and to sale at the same time. And then we would say only really go to view those ones, because there's a bit more room for negotiation, because it looks like those are the signs of them being more motivated than somebody else, and especially if they're vacant.
Yes.
Would you say there's anything else that is a tell? We use like Property B and different tracking sites to see when it was listed and how far it's gone down. Is there anything else where investors can look on the internet just by seeing the advert or how it's presented and find out they might be up for taking or doing a deal because it's empty, or they're more motivated than someone else? Or,
well, I think you've probably given away the telltale signs, and one, Rightmove will and Zipper will tell you when the property first came to the market, and anything over than 4 or 5 months, maybe the seller is ready for a discussion on price. So I think that's an absolute a good recipe. One of the other tools that you may want to do, so there's no keyword search on Rightmove, but there is a keyword search on Zoopla. Okay, if you go into a more advanced search. So if you type in, say, modernization or refurbishment, it will filter the properties that need refurbished or need modernized. Let's say you don't mind, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't remember it. In your garden, the weed, knotweed. That's the word I was looking for. So even if you're not put off by knotweed, because it can be treated, but 99% of all buyers will run for the hills. If you go into Zoopla, the advanced search, and you type in knotweed, it will filter the properties that have got knotweed.
Okay, that's brilliant. Yeah, that really is. That helps, because like you said, 99.9% of people, they falls out of bed as they're at exchange because of the knotweed. Yeah. Properties that are tenanted, and the seller can't sell with vacant possession because it's tenanted for another 5-6 months, but they want to sell now. Maybe unable to provide possession on completion.
So you might want to find properties that have got tenants in place. So the advert on Rightmove or Zoopla from the agent might say, the property is currently rented on a monthly rental of £1,800 per month, and it's due to expire in October. But if it's due to expire in October 2020 and the advert's showing now, that seller might, the clock's ticking, and if they can't offer it vacant, then they might be willing to do a deal.
That's ideal. Some fantastic. I've been taking notes as well myself here, so when we get to the timestamps and when we obviously put this out to our community, there's some fire in here that you've been sharing, which that lots of them are going to really, really benefit from. They really will. Okay. So tell us a bit about.
We're happy to help.
Sorry.
Happy to help.
Oh,
happy to help.
It's ideal. So tell me about obviously what you're going to be doing now, because you've changed from being in a branch yourself and having your own branch, and then building a territory, I think they call it, with Purple Bricks, and then leaving Purple Bricks for your own thing.
Right.
Where are you going to be positioning your company?
Okay, so my expertise is in residential housing, houses, flats, etc., East and North London. Right? And I spend my life on the North Circular and have valued and sold thousands of properties over the years. I think I totaled it up in the last 5 years, even with Purple Bricks. Me and my team sold just under £900 million worth of properties, which is quite some doing, because it wasn't 5 office buildings at 100 million or at 150 odd million each. It was 2-bedroom flats, 1-bedroom flats, 3-bedroom semis, 2-bedroom semis. So it was a lot of repeat. So I've become skilled at that, and I think there's going to be a transition over the next 10 years where sellers will buy into a specific agent, and your investors will know this. If they're dealing with one particular agent from such and such a firm, if that agent moves to another firm and then another firm, they'll follow that individual because they like that individual. And I think that's you're going to see, I think, personalities come to the fore more than, say, brands above the door. I think the personalities in the office are more important than the name above the door. And so that's why I'm wanting to push Property by Simon Taylor, because it's me, because people are buying into me. No matter where I'm working, they want to be working with me, which I'm flattered with. And at Purple Bricks, I've left Purple Bricks because it's become I've got a lot of respect for them, but it's become a little bit less entrepreneurial. The fees are very low, and we're encouraged to take on 30, 40, 50 properties on the go at any one time. And I don't think we can dedicate. I felt I couldn't dedicate the time and resources to service clients fully when I'm dealing with that amount of clients. So Property by Simon Taylor, I'm going to be probably servicing 15 to 20 clients at any one time, covering North and East London. My fees won't be cheap. They might not be as expensive as the high street in some instances, but they'll certainly be a lot more expensive than, say, Purple Bricks, because I'll be giving a more, should we say, Rolls Royce, more hand-holding experience, where I'll be taking care of everything from the beginning right through to completion. I'm just trying to offer sound advice and offer me rather than the agency that I'm working for. So I'm flying solo, and there'll be many other agents that will be wanting to fly solo because they believe in themselves during this time. I could pretty much guarantee that 100% of them won't be wanting to set up high street offices, because the game has changed completely and massively. So, not all agents are created equal, as your investors will know. Many are better than others, and the ones that are good are worth their weight in gold. And the fees at Purple Bricks at circa £1,499, they're just not sustainable, and I think the model works well in a market where it's more buoyant, less creativity is required. But as we head into a marketplace which is going to be more challenging, I think a slower approach, a more bespoke approach, a more hand-holding approach is going to be the order of the day. Well, thanks for the plug. So if anybody's got anything in North or East London that they want a hand with or some thoughts with, there's no charge for my thoughts. You can pick my brain, and I'd be delighted to help.
Oh, that's absolutely fine.
think you've timed the market perfectly as well. Where you've been and
I think. Well, it was a little bit. Yes and no. I suppose. Yes, that it is going to create opportunities for me, and I suppose yes, I can use this downtime to get my marketing and my brand and my website looking as slick as it possibly can, and do shows like this podcast and LinkedIn most, and just I'm dealing with a lot of people, and I'm saying, well, not yet, not yet, not yet. I'm turning instructions down at the moment. I'm saying to people, not yet, wait, just hold your horses. So yes, I'm an estate agent turning down business at the moment. The reason being that in my client's best interest, now's not the time. Just pause and wait. And when things are a little bit more settled, then we'll be good to go.
I see. Okay, well, that's some brilliant advice there for everybody listening here about when is a good time to buy, or just hold back a little bit just to see what the market does in the aftermath of this coronavirus. So that's some great advice that the audience will really appreciate.
Good. Okay. Lovely. Well, and thanks for having me on. I've really enjoyed it.
Pleasure. Really, really happy that you came on and you've shared some fire, which our audience will say, and they're really going to appreciate some of the tactics, your opinion of the market, how they can get into agents, what they should say, what they shouldn't say, how to position themselves as a professional. And I think that will really help.
And you know what? If any of the investors listening haven't got their own website or their own company set up or their own business cards properly finished or finalized, or their blog's looking a little bit neglected, or their website could do with a spring clean, you can use this time productively while we're all, should we say, isolating and imprisoned in our own homes. There's so much that can be done on Zoom and through online websites and courses. So use the time productively would be my advice, to get yourself ship-shape for when the upturn does come, because it will come.
Yeah, it's on its way. So just maximizing their time at home, because they can be productive. There's so many things they can get everything ready, like you said, even if they're just starting out, or raise their game now.
Exactly. So don't watch that Fifth Hour on Netflix. Write down some ideas for your new website or your blog instead. Would be my advice.
Fantastic. Where can anybody listening to this get hold of you if they want to contact you, ask you some questions, or even work with you, or instruct you, send you some deals?
The best thing to do is to contact me at the moment while my new website is under the hood getting tinkered with. The best place to reach me is on LinkedIn. If you want to add me or message me on LinkedIn, I'll always respond. And I'm on that 7 days a week, and always happy to help and answer any questions. I enjoy property. I enjoy helping people. I like to think I'm I get quite a lot of praise, but I'm not very good at shouting about that. But I just try and do the right thing and look after people, and that served me well over all the years that I've been in the industry. I love estate agency. Suppose you've got to love it to have been in it for 20 years, and the next period is going to be exciting. So yes, if anybody wants some advice, bespoke advice for them, or any projects or deals or properties that they haven't sold, and you know what? Yes, my expertise is in North and East London primarily, but if there's something a little bit further afield that you want me to cast my eye over, I'm more than happy to help.
Right, fantastic. That's brilliant. So we'll put...
So yeah, Simon Taylor, I'm on LinkedIn. And that's Taylor.
We'll put those links in the resources and show notes and everything else. So anybody listening, there'll be something below or above where they can click that as well. So is there anything else you want to add before we wrap this session up?
Yes, there is. Thank you for having me. Stay safe, everybody. Keep the faith, everybody. We'll get through it. We'll only get through it all together. And an old mantra of mine would be that every day is a school day, and just soak up as much knowledge as we possibly can over the next few weeks, that you'll be primed and poised and ready for action when life settles down and gets back to normal.
Brilliant. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, Simon. We'll make sure that we follow the launch of your new company as well, and we follow up and maybe do something else when you're up and running and everything else. And then we'll go from there. But it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show, Simon.
Brilliant. Not at all. Pleasure. Many thanks, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
He's a #1 Amazon bestseller. He's an NLP manipulator. He's a property course seller. He's a Lamborghini driving multi-millionaire property guru. Forget that same old boring I am me narcissistic podcast format, because nobody gives a fuck. This podcast is all about you. So I'm taking these few seconds to thank you for subscribing, to thank you for leaving your 5-star reviews, and thank you for sharing this show with all of your friends. My team and I will keep bringing you these episodes and answering all of your burning questions in my Facebook community group called Property Crash Course. If you can just keep telling all of your friends about this show.